Hey guys, welcome back to the AJ Analysis channel and another live stream. The first live stream since last weekend. What were we talking about last time? Manchester United beating Brentford, but of course, that's Scott McTominay masterclass late on. Today we've got some slightly different topics. I want to talk about Erik ten Hag, his life at Manchester United so far. I want to talk about Andre Onana, his start to the season, because I think it's interesting. We need to talk about Harry Maguire, his recent form, but also his recent quotes. We need to talk about Casemiro versus Amrabat, backed up by some stats. We need to talk about Mainoo potentially returning soon. And of course, the transfer news that apparently this man here is being linked with the club. And as always, the tactical board with FB ref reports. We've got a little bit of everything to go through today. So before we get into that, get in the chat. Let me know, firstly, can you guys actually hear me? And let me know how your day is going. Slayer 9000 saying first, Zakaria coming in second, Exposed saying good afternoon AJ, good afternoon to you my friend, I hope you're well. Joshua, good to see you too my friend. James, yeah I'm not bad thank you, pretty good, how are you? Just reading something in YouTube studio real quick, 1 second. Are we good guys? Can you guys hear me alright? Just give me 1 second to check this. Loud and clear, bro. Happy days. Prosper Sunday saying, how are you, AJ? Yeah, I'm not bad at all, thank you. Having a pretty good day, quite a relaxing day. How are you, my friend? I hope you're well. Sound is good, lovely stuff. Day as well, love from India. Love to you, my friend. Exposed, I hope you're good. What have you guys made of the last week at Manchester United? Because I've had an idea that maybe this could be a new series that we do, where every Friday, either in video form or stream form, we do a United Weekly series, where every week we look back at the last 7 days. We can talk about transfer news from that week, injury news from that week, player performances from that week, a little bit of everything. Someone saying stream is a bit laggy. Is anyone else struggling with that? Let me just see if I can fix that real quick. Everything seems fine on my end. I've got an excellent connection, it says on my end. So there's a chance it's on your end. Everything seems to be working for me. People saying we're good. Okay, if it is laggy, try just leaving and refreshing. Hopefully that will sort it out for you guys. But on my end, like I said, I think things are working fine. So, what do you guys want to start off with today? We can talk about Ten Hag. We can start there because obviously that's quite a good overview for the club. Or we can kind of go from the back of the team and work our way through. We can talk about Andre Onana, like I said, perhaps Lisandro Martinez, his injury, Luke Shaw, and what they're going to bring eventually when they return. Amrabat in midfield. So James, you're really struggling with the stream there. I'm not sure why it's not working for you because it seems to be working for everyone else. And if I just watch it on my phone real quick, it's working there as well. So I'm afraid I think that's a problem on your end. I'm not really sure what I can do about that. Have you tried, like I said, leaving and reloading? Yeah, on my end, it is fine. On my end, we're fine. Apologies if you guys are having some technical difficulties. If it continues, I'll cancel the stream and then start again. See if that works. Just let me know. Let me know in chat, guys. Because I think Exposed is having some slight problems as well. But Jared's saying it's fine for him. Yeah, I think we're going to continue, guys, because I think enough people are saying it's fine. James is saying it's good. All right, happy days. Again, if it drops at all, just let me know. Because we're trying to up the quality on the channel. So what do we fancy speaking about first, guys? Sorry, what do you guys want to talk about? Get in chat, let me know what you want to cover first. We can talk Ten Hag, Onana, Maguire might be a good place to start as well. Casemiro and Amrabat is quite a topical point. We could talk about that a little bit. We can talk about Mainoo, his potential return, or we can talk about Gonzalo Inacio, the centre-back linked with the club this week. So get in chat real quick, guys. Just give me 1 word or 2 words in the case of Ten Hag. Let me know what you want me to talk about first. Someone saying Onana, someone saying Ten Hag. Let me know what you're thinking. I guess we can start off with Ten Hag really and just talk about the club in general for now. And then kind of see what comes up from there. What are you guys making of Ten Hag? Now, I'm talking in terms of how well the team's playing at the moment, his transfers so far, a little bit of everything. Ali is in straight away with the donation. Thank you very much, my friend, saying good morning, AJ, and this awesome community. Hope you're all well. I'm very good, thank you. Very excited for the show today. Thank you again for all your hard work. Thank you for your support. And can't wait for the 20k subs so I can get a membership. Just quickly to talk about that. If anyone is interested, let me just get up on my screen a second. When I hit 20,000 subscribers, we are launching memberships on the channel, which gives you a few different things. It might give you access to videos which other people won't have access to. But also, I'm working on making a custom sort of emoji pack, which is looking a little bit like this at the moment. It needs work. Let me know what you guys would like. But Ali, thank you very much for the donation. So you guys could use these in the chat on this channel. I'm going to make more, so let me know what you guys would like. But also, you will also get a badge next to your name, representative of how long you have been a member of the channel. So I think a nice little goat symbol could be cool. Add the hat emoji. That's the one I've been thinking about. A hat emoji with maybe the AJ logo on it. We could do that. But yeah, thank you very much for the donation, Ali. Could everyone say thank you in chat to Ali for the donation and also spam some love hearts because we do greatly appreciate it. But let's get through some of these comments. Spam your love hearts real quick, guys. Spam your love hearts. So people want my view on Ten Hag. Simon saying he's stubborn. Yeah, I think that's a fair point. Thank you guys for the love hearts. Hey Corey, hope you're well, my friend. Hope you're well. What's the plan going forward for United? I think that his pragmatism is delaying the transformation of our team. I really want to see the fullbacks back the press. I completely agree. I think the problem that we have in that sense, though, is I actually just don't think he trusts our defenders. Because obviously if you're going to go super aggressive in a press, let me get the tax board up. I'm loving the love hearts in chat from you guys. Thank you guys very much. Thank you again, Ali. Absolute legend. Of course, if you go super aggressive in a press, right, and you kind of back it up with a fullback, you do leave yourself a little bit light on numbers at the back. And let's say, you know, when United are at their strongest, let's guess that this is Ten Hag's best 11. I don't know that he trusts these players to go 1 versus 1. Because Rafael Varane has lost himself physically a little bit. He's not the Rolls-Royce defender that he once was. Lisandro Martinez isn't great at getting dragged into these wide positions. And in terms of defending 1 versus 1, if the opposition go long, that would be a concern. And also, Dalot, whilst he may have improved, isn't the best 1 versus 1 defender in the world either. So I do understand. It's just frustrating at the same time. So it's a weird one. Perhaps that's why we are seeing links with different defenders to try and address those problems. But again, let me know what you think. So Corey saying, I'm not a fan of Ten Hag, to be honest. I just don't think he's the man for the job. And a lot of players have come for him recently. The problem with that argument, though, is just there isn't really anyone else. Personally, I still think Ten Hag is the man for the job. But I think it's going to be difficult for anyone because of obviously what's going on above them, the ownership and things like that. It's quite clearly a mess, and I think it would be difficult for anyone. But let me know why you're not a fan of him. Do we have any people who are pleased with what's going on at the moment with Ten Hag? Obviously, the form isn't great, right? The start to the season hasn't been very good, but a certain amount of that can be put down to injuries. I don't want to make excuses too much, but the amount of injuries is unheard of. To have 3 left backs out, to have, what's it at the moment, is it 2 or 3 centre backs out, to have a right back out, the injury crisis is borderline unheard of. So I think he deserves a little bit of leeway for that alone. Prosper Sunday saying even Pep wouldn't do better at United. Yeah, I think he'd probably do better than Ten Hag has, but certainly he wouldn't be excelling, I don't think, because it's not the environment to do so. He also isn't being helped, of course, by individuals just being pretty horrendous, right? Andre Onana has been, in terms of shot stopping, pretty awful so far this season. Now, I was bigging this up as a transfer, saying it's potentially transformative for United, and I still stand by that, but he needs to pick up his form. You know, just because I think he's a great signing and I was vouching for him. Granted, I wanted Diogo Costa more, but I was more than happy with Onana. I think long-term he still changes the team completely and does transform the side. Despite thinking that, we can't hide the fact that he does have to improve his performances and his form at the moment from a shot-stopping point of view. I think his technique's been poor. Is it a confidence issue? We know that this guy has a big personality. We've seen it throughout his career. But is it a confidence issue? Is it a... You know, of course, the scrutiny when you play for Manchester United is different to anywhere else in the world. The criticism you get from the media for breathing at times is crazy. So maybe he's struggling with that. Maybe he's struggling with confidence in terms of the defenders in front of him. Not too sure. Let me know what you guys think. I think probably the area where I've been disappointed a little bit, though, by Onana is more in his long passing, things like that. But again, perhaps that's tactical instruction. Because one thing we were talking about when Onana signed was that when United were in trouble, with the signings of Onana and Rasmus Højlund, United at times could kind of bypass the press and go along like this. and that could be a really good weapon, and I still think it could, but I think there's a time and a place for it. For my liking, United are doing it way too regularly. Now, again, perhaps that's down to personnel, because we've got players playing out of position everywhere. For example, we've got Sofian Amrabat at left back. We've got Casemiro, if I can find him, in midfield. And then often Victor Lindelof here. Perhaps with this set of personnel, it's instruction that Ten Hag doesn't think we can play out from the back. So perhaps that's why Onana goes long. But it does feel quite pragmatic, and it feels a little bit like what we were seeing last season, whereas the hope was we would see growth and improvement this season. Now, like I said, there's nothing wrong with going long occasionally. It's a great weapon. You can cover a lot of ground, catch the opposition out, and it works quite well. But when you do it every time you get the ball, you're not exactly catching the opposition out. So what do you guys think? Do you think that is instruction from Ten Hag to be a bit more direct? Do you think it's Onana losing a bit of confidence in himself, in his own ability? Or, like I said, is it instruction where with these personnel, United see Rafael Varane, Lindelof and Casemiro as this trio? Do you think that's the problem? Onana's looking at that and going, this isn't the situation to play out. I'm not giving the ball to Rafael Varane, Casemiro or Lindelof under pressure because they're going to mess up. Is it a case of, later on in the season, when we see Amrabat properly in midfield, when we see Lisandro Martinez return and perhaps Luke Shaw as well, suddenly we start seeing a nicer football again? I'm genuinely not sure. It's interesting to hear your thoughts in the comments down below though. Let me read through some of these comments in chat. Thank you guys for getting involved. It's great to see so many of you, particularly in a week where there isn't any Manchester United football. So thank you guys for joining in. Corey asking, how many players do we have injured? Well, at the moment, like I said, we've got 3 left backs out in Shaw, Malacia, Reguilon, although Reguilon should be coming back. We've got Varane missed a spell but is back. Maguire missed a spell but is back. Lisandro Martinez is still out. Wan-Bissaka's still out. In midfield, we're fully fit apart from Kobe Mainoo, I believe. And in attack, we're okay, although, of course, Anthony has already missed a large part of the season. Sancho as well, for obvious reasons. So I think that's it for injuries at the moment. But yeah, like I said, let me just read through some of these. Ten Hag is missing some charisma or emotional IQ. He is more of a disciplinarian, easy enough for me to say. And I think in today's age, you need to have a bit more personality, like Klopp, Pep, and even Mikel, potentially. I would like to see a bit more of his personality. I'm not saying it necessarily affects him as a manager, but it would be nice to see a bit more personality from him at times. The project would be taking less time if the recruitment model was different. 3 signings per year and nothing in the winter, no free agents or work before the transfer window. That's a very good point. I think it's something we've said a lot. The manager can only do so much at this club. There's definitely problems in the recruitment and, of course, much higher as well. KM kind of supporting Ten Hag, saying we have a gem of a manager. Ten Hag was the guy I wanted since 2019 and I still haven't changed my opinion. Good to see. I'm not Ten Hag out quite yet, but at the same time, I won't fight to keep him other than for the fact there's no alternative right now. Hey, Codename, good to see you, mate. Hope you're well. Were you in stream Saturday night after the Brentford game or not? I can't remember, but good to see you, my friend. Ten Hag's management style just doesn't work in today's football. With a relatively young squad, you can't be a dictator style, and I feel that's why Ole lasted so long. Yeah, I guess so. Perhaps it's high risk, high reward, though, as a manager. Because, of course, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer worked well, but it did see the standards slip a little bit in players and work rate at times, maybe. I'm not sure. The other teams also had personnel problems, like Arsenal, but I reckon that Arteta was playing them the way he wanted. But do you think that was the case 3 seasons ago with Arteta? When, he didn't have his squad built as such, which is kind of the case for Ten Hag right now, because he does have a lot of his players out injured. 3 years ago, Arteta wasn't playing his football. He was often reverting to a back 3, for example. I remember Kieran Tierney playing left centre-back in a back 3. So, don't know. I think it's a second choice instruction to adapt to the rest of the squad being on the same wavelength. Yeah, I completely agree. I think that's what it might be more. Danny, good to see you, my friend, saying Onana made a great long overhead pass to Bruno directly from the back in the Brentford match. That gave me lots of confidence of him to pick up his form. I know exactly what pass you're talking about. Yeah, he's definitely still shown glimpses. There's been a few passes where you just kind of sit there and you're like, wow, that's impressive. I just think we don't need to do it all the time. It needs to be more of a, you kind of catch people off guard thing, rather than it's our go-to strategy. Josh saying, I believe for the first time, United as a board should give a coach time to play with his team. Sacking Ten Hag, not a good option, because he will just we will just be going through the same cycle. I completely agree. I think if we were to sack a manager now, we would be in the same situation in 18, 24 months' time. But I mean, Ten Hag, who is so dictatorship-like and always mentions standards, but yet doesn't seem to drop those not meeting these, quote, standards. That's also a good point. I think with that, I think a lot of his standards come in also training and stuff, though, and we don't know who matches that in training because we don't see it. We might look on the football pitch at the weekend and say, well, he doesn't seem up to standard or whatever. But of course, Ten Hag works with these players a lot longer, so you might be completely right, but it's difficult to say because, you know, we don't work closely with the players like the managers and the coaches do, so not too sure. We've got kind of the opposite viewpoint here, saying Ten Hag's discipline style is absolutely necessary. Player power has gone out of control at Manchester United. Ollie's nice guy act didn't help him. I would completely agree with that. I think that is the one thing which has massively, massively changed. Since Ten Hag has come in, I don't think player power is a thing anymore. We saw the Ronaldo downed tools and, you know, literally just walked out of the stadium when he got subbed off. He went and done that interview, so Ten Hag went, you're not going to undermine me, and got kicked out. Whereas if we talk about Pogba and Jose Mourinho a few years ago, it was very, very different. Of course, Jadon Sancho coming out in the media and saying certain things, and Ten Hag's gone, okay, you're not up to my standards. Perhaps more from a psychological point of view, he wants it. Again, we don't know because we don't work with the players like he does. I think Ten Hag's similar how other previous managers faced. Managing a deteriorating club with hands behind his back, a recipe for disaster. Completely true. A completely agreed codename. People say bring De Zerbi. Do you think our players could adapt to that pressing system like Rashford? Could see even more issues with De Zerbi within the squad than Ten Hag has currently. I think De Zerbi would do a worse job than Ten Hag right now, simply because Ten Hag, yes, he's pragmatic at times, which can be frustrating, but it's also really helped United. If United weren't pragmatic last season, they wouldn't have got as far as they did in Europa League, the Premier League, the Carabao Cup. It wouldn't have happened. Whereas De Zerbi is much more stubborn in terms of this is the style we're playing and we're just going to do it, which is, of course, why they've been kind of smashed a few times. So I actually do think Ten Hag is more suited to the current situation at United than what De Zerbi would be. In terms of Onana, are you guys concerned about his shot stopping or not? I think he's always had a slight weakness, I guess, in his game throughout his career of dealing with long shots. I don't think that's ever been a particular strength of his. If you go back and watch teams like Inter, for example, there are situations where it does seem to be a problem. Outside of that, I think his shot stopping still is of a good standard normally. We've seen his XG over the past few seasons in the Champions League. I think he's performed very well in that aspect. I think it is just a dip. I also think, you know, when we talk about Inter last season, defensively they were very, very solid, so they didn't concede that many chances. As a goalkeeper, it's quite difficult to face 20 shots a game compared to 5, for example. So I think he needs more protection as well. Simon saying he was flat-footed. On long shots, I completely agree. Yeah. His footwork is very odd, and the way that he springs when he dives is a bit weird as well. But like I said, with Inter, he was used to having a lot more protection in front of him. I also think we signed him for his passing, and United aren't playing that way yet, which doesn't help either. You know, his main strength isn't really being utilised, so I think that hasn't helped him adapt to the club yet as well. Codename said, no, I think new goalkeeper takes time to deal under huge clubs. De Gea was almost disastrous in his first season under Sir Alex Ferguson. De Gea struggled to get into the first team, if you remember. Lindegaard kept him out for about half that season. And look at the career De Gea went on to have. So I agree with you. I think it's way too early to kind of rule him out. I think it's fair to be a little bit concerned, a little bit dubious about him. Yeah, De Gea was much younger. It's very true. So maybe Onana doesn't deserve as much time as De Gea did, but still some time, I think. He should be peaking, I agree, but there's also an adaptation period. Just reading through some of these chats. So Matt saying he prefers someone who is a leader because it's self-evident, not because it's just deemed so via job title. Yeah, I understand that. People overlook how much hinges on other players adapting to him too. Yeah, I think that's a really important thing. Like I said already, we've seen it for a couple of years with the centre-backs, for example, when McTominay and Fred were in front of them, they didn't get much protection at all, and the United centre-backs therefore looked horrendous. Whereas last season, Casemiro came in, done a really good job of protecting them, and suddenly their level went up a bit. Granted, it still weren't perfect, but they suddenly looked a lot better. I think players are massively, massively, massively affected by what is around them. And Onana right now, when we talk about the greats, we talk about Van der Sar, for example, a goalkeeper that I grew up watching. And we're talking about United winning the Champions League and the Premier League double in the same season, 2007, 2008, that year. We had Van der Sar was in goal, you had Rio Ferdinand in front of him, Nemanja Vidic in front of them, and Patrice Evra was nearly always left back. And I can't think off the top of my head who was right back that season. But, that base of Evra, Vidic, Ferdinand, Van der Sar was nearly always there. Any important game, it was those guys. They were always fit, they were always reliable, they were always available, and they had that chemistry, that understanding with each other. Whereas with United at the moment, you've got Onana in goal. One week he's got Lisandro Martinez in front of him, then he's got Varane in front of him, then he's got Maguire in front of him, then he's got Lindelof in front of him. His left back, he's had Shaw there, he's had Amrabat there, he's had Dalot there, he's had Reguilon there, he's had Lindelof there. I think we just need to actually see some sort of just some sort of consistency. But obviously Ten Hag can't really help that because of the injuries. But I think it's harsh to judge any of the defensive unit thinking about it when the changes are happening so much. This team needs to develop an understanding. There was an interview of Rio Ferdinand and Nemanja Vidic where they were saying that I could do whatever I wanted because I knew that my partner was going to know what I was going to do. They were on the same wavelength. United can't physically claim to have that because it's chopping and changing so much. People can't have understandings and relationships with each other on the pitch if it's changing so much. So that has to play into it. Onana, for example, when he's got Lisandro Martinez in front of him, both in and out of possession, it's very different to Harry Maguire. And again, it's very different to Victor Lindelof. So I understand it as well. The McTominay free kick, was he robbed, do you think? Was he robbed? Where's Brown, John O'Shea right back that season? You are right. So those two rotated a little bit more, but the rest of them were really solid and regulars in the team. So Danny's saying the biggest problem so far is that our players are too static. Yeah, I do agree with that. No one runs to create space, hence the difficulty of playing out from the back. That leads to a lot of errors. Ten Hag needs to fix it. Yeah, I think that's completely reasonable. You're going to see it also. I've got a video Sunday morning about set pieces. And it's almost similar on set pieces as well. Like, the players are just too static and reactionary at time rather than being proactive and moving into space and creating space. That's true, this team is not balanced at all. We have half the players suited to one style and the other half suited to another style of play. Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. I don't understand the fall of form for Lindelof in his passing abilities. He was doing a lot of progressive passes last year. Now he is a sideways pass merchant. Is it mental? No idea, but I completely agree that I don't know where it's come from. It was only probably 2 months ago I was talking about Lindelof being a good third or fourth choice centre-back, and now we've seen him this season. He's been nothing short of horrendous. United's worst defender by an absolute mile, so not sure what's going on there. Man United's defensive line changes almost every week. There was no way in hell that builds chemistry. Completely agree. We are 11 games in, and to be honest, the only game we can say we deserve to win was the Palace game in a League Cup. Yeah, arguably Nottingham Forest as well, if you take the first 10 minutes out. But yeah, I completely agree that I think there's a lot of problems. I'm not sitting here saying it's perfect. Just trying to give both sides of it. When someone criticises Ten Hag for his relationship with an overrated English player like Sancho, I remember how Pep treated Cancelo when he was the best fullback in the world, manager above all players. I do agree with that. I am of the opinion 9 times out of 10, it's the managers above players. I'm not going to speak on Sancho because we don't know. I think he's a good footballer still. I think he could be really good. We don't know the inside outs of that situation. But in general, personally, I'm always going to try and back the manager rather than a player. Codename saying, let's just address the elephant in the room. Was it time to drop and possibly look for a Casemiro replacement? Well, do we already have it? Because Sofian Amrabat, when he played midfield last week, looked really, really good. Let me see if I can find his numbers on my phone real quick. From that game, I thought Sofian Amrabat was absolutely brilliant when he moved into midfield as a solo pivot. In the first half when he was playing alongside Casemiro, I didn't think it worked quite as nicely. He seemed a little bit sluggish in there, in my opinion, Sofian Amrabat. But I think when it was moved to him being a solo pivot in midfield at half-time with Christian Eriksen coming on, I thought he looked really, really good. And certainly made a case for him being the man to replace Casemiro. And that's what we've got to now figure out moving forward. Is it a case of Amrabat and Casemiro alongside each other? Or does one of them not make it? Or is it Mason Mount who doesn't make it? Or is it a midfielder wide right? Ten Hag's definitely going to face a selection dilemma there. Probably in 2 weeks' time when all the players are kind of fit and someone like Antony, for example, has that match sharpness back to his game. Ten Hag is going to have a real decision there on who you drop. Because only one of Amrabat, Mount, Casemiro, Fernandes and Antony will need to be dropped. Plus there'll be someone like Mainoo to factor into it as well. So it will be interesting. Do you think we need more first phase players and ball playing defenders? Yeah, I think particularly midfielders. You've said defenders there, which I agree with. I think a better ball playing right centre back in the long term would be ideal. But I think certainly in midfield we need to see better receivers in these areas. Amrabat can be that. Mainoo can be that. Mount potentially could grow into it. We'll have to see. You think McTominay was robbed? Yeah, I think it was a little bit harsh. I didn't really understand the decision, I'll be honest. Corey saying Casemiro is not a true sitting six. The only person that should be dropped is another one of Ten Hag's invincible boys, Bruno. So, Corey, you're saying you would want kind of Amrabat as your holding midfielder and then Casemiro and Mount as your two kind of box-to-box 3/8s a little bit? Is that what you're asking for here? Do you think that Fernandes is the right player for the finished product of the Ten Hag style of play? Okay, so a few of you guys have mentioned Bruno Fernandes now. Do you want a video on it? I may not discuss it too in depth today. I want to do my research and make sure that I'm coming at you guys, with proper knowledge. But would you guys like a video on Bruno Fernandes? Something has to be said for the attackers. Granted, we are conceding, but we need more goals going forward. I completely agree. I think set pieces is a way in which United can improve in that area, which is why I'm doing a video on it. But in general, yeah, I think United have to improve going forward. Codename, I always think that Man United had that specialised 8, or need that specialist 8. Most of the midfielders are more of a hybrid 6/8 or a 10/8. Yeah, I can see that. Corey saying you'd start off with a pivot of Amrabat and Casemiro, so a double pivot like this. 1 second. With Christian Eriksen in the 10, that's an interesting lineup. Would you be worried at all about the off-the-ball ground coverage of Eriksen and Casemiro? Because they are quite sluggish. Casemiro has declined, and it's not tactical to Ten Hag. He is also not performing for Brazil. Yeah, his performances for Brazil haven't been very good this season either. You're completely right. What do I think about Pedro Neto for Sancho replacement? Probably going to do a video on that as well at some point. My initial kind of brief overview of it would be, I'm just worried about his fitness because he gets a lot of injuries. That would be my main concern. He does have a lot of injuries and he's had a lot of injury troubles in his career so far. If he could get over those, then we could certainly look into it. Scott McTominay is in the form of his life, isn't he just? What do you think of playing him as a second striker in a 3-4-1-2 formation, considering the recent injury crisis we are facing? So that would be Rashford and Rasmus Højlund as a front two. It'd be interesting to figure out who could play wing back in that system, but we could certainly look into it. To be honest, Bruno is performing quite poorly, especially when he's always looking for Rashford, even when he is a wrong place. Bruno Fernandes will always be one of the most frustrating players to watch because he has this ability to find a pass out of nowhere, which is genuinely not possible for 99% of players on the planet. He sees things which other footballers don't see, and not only does he see them, he has the execution to pull it off as well. At the same time, he does lose the ball a lot. So, yeah, I'll be honest, when Ten Hag first came into the club and we were talking about profile of player, Bruno Fernandes doesn't match that profile. He's probably almost perfectly suited to this kind of in-between we're at the moment, where it's not quite ball playing, it's not quite full transition, it's somewhere in between. He probably suits that actually the best. We're going to have to see moving forward though. We're going to have to see, can he adapt and change his game? Now obviously, he isn't the youngest player in the world, so is he going to want to adapt his play style, a style which has worked for him so far in his career? We don't know, we'll have to wait and see. But it's definitely something that we need to look into. Bruno is unironically me on Rocket League. He's a dreamer. Yeah, I like that. Guys, it's not FIFA. You can't change the tactic in day and night, especially when playing three on the back. That's the other thing you have to consider as well. When you do change a formation, you can't change a formation and full tactical structure, play it for one game and go, okay, doesn't work, time for something new. You have to tinker and adapt. Formations and systems take a long time to work. It's why we see a lot of experimenting in pre-season normally. And it's why managers coming in January often struggle as well. I noticed that very few of our backline players had the confidence to dribble into open space. Yeah, I would say Luke Shaw and Sandro Martinez would be our two best at doing that, of course, both injured. They always stop to find a pass out. It's made our progression so predictable and easy to defend. I completely agree. Especially when you add it in midfield as well. United lack true ball carriers. So yeah, I completely agree. I still like the diamond, Amrabat and Mount in the 8 covering the ground, Bruno in the 10 and Casemiro in the 6. I think there's potential in the diamond shape. It's a case of getting kind of overcoming certain flaws in the system which are quite evident, and that is the gap out wide. I think there is still something you can do there. Corey saying I'd say Bruno is suited to full transition. I think if you put him in a full counter-attacking side, I think he would be brilliant. I think he is also suited to that in-between as well. Like I said, a full possession, full control, arguably not. And again, that is something that we have to look into and figure out. Bruno can be a Ten Hag player, to be honest. He is much more technical than we expected, but the problem, Bruno is not a patient player. So the thing that I would question with Bruno Fernandes, right, is we talk about how, you know, when he plays for Manchester United, what is your guys' big criticism? Those of you that have become frustrated by Bruno Fernandes, what is your main criticism of him? Just quickly before we kind of go further, what would you say is your main concern? Because I've got a feeling I know what you're saying. It's also my main problem, but I want to see if we're on the same wavelength. So what is your main concern with Bruno Fernandes? If you guys get that in chat, that he's in a United shirt. That's one way of putting it, I guess. I was maybe looking for something a bit more precise than that. Erratic. Bruno Mars playstyle, catch a grenade for you. I'm not going to sing it in case I get copyrighted, because my singing voice is that good that it would be a very accurate representation. But yeah, I get it. If he can't get goals, assists, he is literally horrific, like shambolic. Yep. In what way, though? Is your concern that he gives the ball away too much? Is your concern that, you know, his vision isn't good enough? Is your concern that his finishing isn't good enough? Is your concern that he's not good enough defensively? Like, what is it in possession which you don't like? Like I said, you're not wrong. I'm just trying to get your guys' opinion on it. Not capable of being patient in a possession style. Yeah, that's the sort of vibe I was expecting to get from you guys. Awful whinger. He does like a good whinge. I think we all like a good whinge here and there. Always complaining to the ref, goes down too easy. So yeah, I think that's annoying for fans, but of course, from a tactical point of view, it's not that massive. Lack of ball carrying, that's a fair criticism. In possession, too fast, too risky. Reasonable, very reasonable. He always seems to look for a Hollywood pass or shoot rather than just keep it simple. So that's the point I was kind of expecting you guys to make. And the thing I find weird with it, and I completely agree, by the way, you guys are right. I do think his ball carrying is poor, and I do think he does play forward too quickly. What I find confusing with him, though, is if we go back to that game against Everton last season, I think it was, he had like 100 touches and his pass completion rate was about 90%. So he can do it. And we've seen it for Portugal as well. I'm just trying to find the numbers on my phone now. I can't find which game it is. But there was a game where he had, you know, incredibly good pass accuracy. And for Portugal, he's often 80% plus. Which, you know, if you compare that to someone like De Bruyne, it's around what De Bruyne would be completing. So why is it that sometimes he does it, sometimes he doesn't? And it's definitely more often that he doesn't play it safe. That's definitely the more frequent thing. But why is it? Is it him as a problem? Or is it, you know, a tactical problem? Is Ten Hag telling him to do the wrong thing? Similar with Onana. Is it because of Fernandes and Onana individually? Or is it Ten Hag recognising players around them and saying, because of what we've got around us, we need to be more transitional. I'm trying to get that point across, that I don't know if it's Fernandes choosing to do it or instruction, because obviously Casemiro goes really direct as well, as does Bruno Fernandes. The fact that it's two of them doing it and they don't really ever get dropped, do you wonder if it's almost actually an instruction? Interested to hear your opinion. I think I just caught out the corner of my eye someone saying about Wirtz. Wirtz has the potential to be one of the best footballers on the planet as a creative midfielder. He's a player I need to scout more in terms of like the finer sides of his game, but yeah, he's definitely the sort of player who could play that sort of role. Of course, Mason Mount is another option. Maybe those games were exceptions. That's very true as well. Maybe they are the anomaly. Not sure. When he plays in the number 10 role, he is really good. There's lots of different opinions on this, and this is what I want. Keep getting them in, chat. Let me know what you are thinking. Ali saying we are missing 3 of our defenders from last season. Also, De Gea, Onana will come good soon. Our defenders are back and build a chemistry. I completely agree. And I think once you've got that, that's your foundation, then the rest of the team can flourish more. Particularly if Ten Hag makes a decision on what he wants to do in midfield. I think having a goalkeeper, a somewhat stable and reliable back four, when will that happen? I'm not sure. But when we can get to that, I think that's when you can start to judge it a little bit more. I think it's Ten Hag instruction, to be honest. Ten Hag wants to play fast through the middle of the park and abuse the strength and power of Rashford and Rasmus Højlund. I think that is definitely something which plays into it. But I'm just trying to find a stat of Kevin De Bruyne. So Kevin De Bruyne averages last season in the Premier League 81% pass accuracy. So would you say that's too low? Or is that about right? Again, I'm not trying to question you guys. I'm just trying to get your opinions on it. So De Bruyne tends to average around 81% pass accuracy, which of course is a lot lower than several of the other Manchester City players. So, again, is it a Bruno Fernandes problem? Just let me know what you think. I'm trying to see if I can find Bruno Fernandes' numbers from last season to compare to that. Okay, so De Bruyne averages 81% pass accuracy in the Premier League last season. Bruno Fernandes is at 78%. So it's not a massive difference. Which again asks the question, is it Bruno Fernandes is the problem? Or is it the structure around him? Because obviously for De Bruyne, when he loses the ball, he's got very good technical players around him, but he's also got players which are much better at pressing. He's in a much better defensive side, so they win the ball back and it doesn't matter as much. The fact it's only a 3% difference isn't massive. It's more than you would like, but it's not huge. De Bruyne is like Bruno. I do agree. I think they are more similar than what people think. People seem to think that De Bruyne is this more like technically refined version of Fernandes. And in a sense he is, in a way that he carries the ball and stuff. But in terms of actually ball retention, they're actually quite similar. So is it actually more the players around them which is the problem? De Bruyne is a ball carrier? Yeah, De Bruyne is miles clear of Fernandes in that department, absolutely. I just mean in the sense of a kind of pass completion, a ball retention sense. In terms of carrying, yeah, De Bruyne's a lot better. I feel Amrabat coming in for Casemiro and United using more of a 4-3-3. I think that's probably the first change to make, kind of start there. And again, it's like what we were saying about earlier when you play new systems. It's not about completely abandoning things. It's about tinkering and giving things time. So the first change I would make right now is I would bring Amrabat in for Casemiro. This is just me personally. But I would keep Mason Mount and Bruno Fernandes in midfield. If that doesn't work, you then tinker again. You take one of them out. Maybe you bring Casemiro in for one of them or Kobe Mainoo. That's the sort of way that I would be approaching it. Rather than making 3 changes in midfield, I think that disrupts it too much. National competitions are different from club competitions. They are more simple and fast. That's why you have an amazing manager like Flick, but he got sacked and not reaching the success like he did at Bayern. That's also very true. Comparing international football to Premier League is a very different game. It's almost a different sport at times in the intensity with which it's played. Bruno played in a lot of positions this season. If he just sticks to the 10 role, he will be unstoppable. Creative players often lose the ball to create outrageous chances. That's what I want from my 10 personally. I want my creative player, like you said there, to be that high-risk, high-reward footballer. The problem is, I think if Bruno Fernandes played for Manchester City in the De Bruyne position, I don't think it would look as bad because he has much more retention players around him. The problem with United is you've got Rashford, who's quite direct and loses the ball a lot. Rasmus, who is technically a little bit raw still, so loses the ball a decent amount. Casemiro, who fires the ball forward a lot. And Bruno Fernandes. I think if it's one or two of them, it's okay. I think it's the fact that United have so many of them. So I think if you had 10 really good retention players, put Bruno Fernandes in the middle of them, that can absolutely work in a Ten Hag system. Trust me, it really can. But I don't think, Casemiro doing it, Fernandes doing it, Rashford doing it, Højlund doing it, then it doesn't work. I think that's probably the best way of putting it. We don't have a player who can dictate the flow of the game. Bruno can fit this role, and I think he could be used as a centre mid rather than a cam. Downside to this is his defensive abilities. Yeah, also, I think out of possession is something which needs to be spoken about. And again, maybe I'll cover that in a video, because I think he's not perfect there either. I believe Amrabat was always a Casemiro alternative for Erik ten Hag, whilst everyone was looking at him as a partner. Yeah, I see it as a replacement, personally. There's so many of you in chat, which is absolutely brilliant, by the way, guys. Apologies if I miss any of these. Here is my take. Bruno actually lacks physical specimen. Made him have to play pass much quicker before opponents tackle him. That's a really interesting way of looking at it. And actually not something I'd thought about. Is he at times aware of his lack of ball carrying ability, so he has to get the pass off quicker? Potentially. Let's say when De Bruyne has a player closing him down like this, De Bruyne believes he can protect the ball, carry the ball, so he takes more time on his pass, whereas does Fernandes feel he can't protect the ball? Maybe that's why he plays quicker. That's a really interesting point. Yeah, like I said, apologies if I miss anyone's chat. If you want to guarantee that I see it, you can use a super chat, which guarantees that I see what you say, but if you don't want to, that's fine also. I like my 10s to be intricate and technical, silky-like players, so maybe that's why I don't admire Bruno as much as other United fans. That's the other thing, right? At the end of the day, we all have our own preferences in what we like in a footballer. What I like personally in a 10 isn't Bruno Fernandes. I do like a player which takes risks. I think that's important. I think that's the only way you create chances at the end of the day is if you try things in the final third. But at the same time, I do like someone who can receive the ball on turn a little bit more and is a bit more aesthetically pleasing. That is what I prefer naturally. But it doesn't mean Bruno Fernandes is bad either. We've seen how effective he's been over the past few years. It's about finding the balance of what you like to watch, but also what's actually best for the team. It's probably somewhere in between is the actual answer. Casemiro plays the ball in front of him without protecting it, unlike Amrabat, who shields the ball. Yeah, Amrabat is definitely the one in this team who's much better at protecting the ball, because one, he's got the physical size, but also he scans a lot better. He always seems more aware of what is around him, so he knows how to position himself, get his body in the way. That's one of the reasons why I've been impressed with Amrabat. We should really look at South American market, great talents. I completely agree. It's something that I want to look into more. It's just a case of getting the footage, really. Would you prefer a solo pivot or a double pivot? I think a double pivot is good for a side which isn't where they want to be yet in terms of the way that they play football. So they want to be a bit more secure. In that sense, I prefer a 4-2-3-1 with a double pivot. But I think as you get better and kind of want to go to that next level, I then prefer the 4-3-3 with a singular pivot. In that case, AJ, who is your perfect number 10 right now? On the spot a little bit with that one, mate. Truthfully, I don't know, to be honest. It's something that I'd have to look into. It's a market which I haven't really looked into. I haven't been scouting number 10s, simply because we've got Mason Mount, we've got Bruno Fernandes. I don't think United will sign one anytime soon. But perhaps it is something I need to look into. Maddison is up there in terms of style that I like. Yeah, Maddison is definitely up there. Because he's added a retention side to his game, which I've quite liked so far this season. But also he still tries those quick forward passes. It'd be interesting to see his pass completion. Because I think also, sometimes we go into things with this, an idea already in our head. We go into matches thinking Bruno Fernandes loses the ball a lot. Okay, so I watch the game. And then we also go into it thinking De Bruyne keeps the ball well. So we go into the game. And you kind of see what you want to see, when actually the numbers might be quite a bit closer. Maddison transformed Spurs? Yeah, completely. I want to I want to do a video on Spurs at some point. Probably next week, maybe. Spurs are a Madders injury away from falling down the table. I also agree with that as well. I have to say, Harvey Elliott looked filthy on the turn in that England game. I didn't actually see it. Let me know who else impressed, though, because I might watch it back at some point. Rico Lewis, for example, how did he play? Let me see if I can find James Maddison's pass completion numbers. 85%. So he is quite a bit higher. He's about, what was Bruno, 78? So yeah, up to 85%. That is quite a big difference. Do you think Garnacho at right wing could work? I think he would be great at getting to the byline and pulling it back. It's difficult to say because we've never seen him do it. But I find it interesting that we haven't seen him do it. I think I would like it. I'd like to see it tried at least or experimented with, maybe in a Carabao Cup. It would be interesting to see, but I guess the coaches have seen something in training which makes them not want to do it because there has been the opportunity to do it recently. There definitely has been, but we haven't done it. So it'd be interesting to see why. Do you think using inverted fullbacks for transition football is better as they don't have to run up and down the wings as much? It really depends. Corey with the £5 donation. Thank you very much, my friend. Spam love hearts in chat for Corey. I do greatly appreciate that, mate. He said in 2018-19 when Ollie came in, he played Pogba in the 10 and he was insane. Even made the PFA team of the year. So I felt with a true 6 for Pogba. Sorry, hang on. So I felt a true 6 with Pogba was what we needed rather than Bruno Fernandes. Yeah, I loved Paul Pogba. I'll be honest. I'm someone who was a massive fan of him. I'm gutted it didn't work out. Danny has just said something similar. Perfect 10. What if Pogba didn't leave? I think obviously off the ball he was a problem, but yeah, in possession, Pogba in the 10 could have been something special. Thank you very much for the donation. Everyone spam love hearts. I can see some of you doing it already. Thank you very much, Corey. Absolute legend. I do appreciate that. Yeah, I think Maddison's probably the closest thing in the Premier League at the moment for what I like. I also like Musiala. I saw someone else saying brilliant player. Wirtz is a brilliant player. I always used to like Christian Eriksen when he was at Spurs. I like David Silva. AJ spoke about Maddison. What happened to Tielemans? He became a sought-after midfielder to barely playing any games. Well, apparently now he's fallen out with Emery as well, right? He's not happy with his game time, so it might be going bad to worse there. What do you think of partnering Casemiro with Lissandro as a centre-back option? Midfield would look like Amrabat, Bruno and Mainoo or Mount. I mean, it's definitely a potential solution to get more midfielders in the side, move Casemiro but still keep his experience. And it's something I've been asked about several times. I think it probably needs me to research it. Does anyone have the numbers on how much times Casemiro's played centre-back in his career and kind of how well he's done there? Because if we can find that footage of Casemiro playing as a centre-back, I'll happily go through it and figure out what he's good at, what he's bad at, and could it work. I'd happily do that. The team is good as it is, says Hans. They just need to gel together. The defence is kind of weak, but get Licha and Varane together again and loads of that free space in defence disappears. Yeah, I think Licha's aggressiveness is missed. I don't think he had a great start to the season, but what he does do is step forward defensively and kind of take up some of these areas and closes down this space. It's just about the players getting the positioning right around him. Kaka is the best 10 I've ever seen. Yeah, loved Kaka, great player. I think the Burnley game last season, Casemiro was played as centre-back. I can't remember, but I'll happily look for it. And again, if he did, I'll look at the footage and kind of see what was going on. And also, if he done it for Real Madrid at all, I'll happily look at it. When Pogba was allowed to play higher, he tended to deliver. Weirdly, his best was when he was almost allowed the left wing half space right on the edge of the box. Yeah, there was that spell where he was playing left wing in like a 4-2-3-1 at one point, weren't he? It was... Who would it have been? It must have been McTominay and Matic probably as the double pivot. Bruno was in the 10. Pogba left wing. Maybe Rashford up top at the time. I can't actually remember, but he definitely did play there for a spell. AJ, your thoughts on United still making it into the top 4? Who would be your 4 with United in it? Yeah, I think United can still get there. I think United are... I think City and Arsenal are a league apart from everyone else. I think they're top 2 easily. I think United are probably competing with Spurs and Liverpool. Spurs and Liverpool are a bit better than United, definitely. But like people have said, I think Spurs have had a lot of luck with injuries. I think if you look at the Liverpool squad and the Spurs squad at the moment, if you gave both of those teams all the injuries that United have had so far, they would also be struggling. So it's difficult to gauge at the moment, but definitely United can still make it. Ali saying we really miss Shaw. I completely agree. I think he's such a good ball progressor. I think he's good defensively. But in the final third, his delivery into the box is so good. And we finally got a striker where that could really work in Rasmus Højlund, like you said there. But we haven't been able to see it yet, which is incredibly frustrating. One of you guys just followed me on Twitter. If that is you, thank you very much. Corey saying, I think if we back Ten Hag, we'd be lucky to get Europa League. So in that case, would you like to see him gone? Because, of course, our aim has to be higher. Codename saying, let's be honest, would you exchange Rashford with Kubica after this season? Not at the moment. I think Kubica Kvaratskhelia has had... Obviously, last season was his first proper year European top-level football. He was very good up until February time. He hasn't been the same since. His form has picked up a little bit in the last couple of weeks. But give him this season and then we'll come back to it. We need to see how good he is. Because trust me, if you guys... if Kubica Kvaratskhelia was producing his current form or his form of the last 4 months in the current team, people would not like him. AJ, if you could replace one thing at United, what would it be? The owners. Oh, Ian Viking, good to see you, mate. Liverpool with injuries to any of their 2 midfield players is 10 times worse than what we have at the moment. Exactly, I agree. When we see it today, is Lisandro Martinez a good buy? He seems to have a lack of athleticism, not capable of being in the wide channels, injury prone, and a little small. Well, on that point, what do you guys think? Sorry, wrong page. Of the talks of Inacio being linked to the club. So this is a left-footed centre-back playing for Sporting Lisbon. He's about 22 years old, Portuguese defender. Left-footed is the interesting thing because, of course, you rarely see a centre-back pairing with 2 left-footers. So that would suggest he's there for that left centre-back spot where Lisandro Martinez plays. If that is the case, he can't be a backup defender because you don't spend £52 million on a backup defender. So is he coming in to take Lisandro Martinez's spot? Let me know what you think. What do you make of... I found this news really interesting. Does it mean Lisandro Martinez is going to be pushed out of the team entirely? Does it mean he would be moved to more left-back, Lisandro Martinez? Or Inacio could play left-back as well? So Corey saying, for me, Ten Hag has to go. 1 good performance, 2 average performances, comebacks, and 8 bad performances. Who would you be interested in to replace Erik Ten Hag if he was to go, say, like today, for example? Muhammad Ali saying, play Lisandro in the Stones role. Well, the thing with that is he still has to start at centre-back, which doesn't add up with Inacio coming into the side. Unless, like I said, one of them is a left-back. What do you think of Scalvini? From what I've seen, he looks amazing, but he is still young. He lost his head in that Sporting game in Europa. He's a really good player that I've been watching for just over a year now. I done a players to watch video at the start of last season, and he was one of the players I would suggest him. He's really good, really, really very good. He can play midfield as well, very versatile. But yeah, he's still young. I think he needs to grow into his frame a bit more as well. I think if he was to come into the Premier League right now, physically, he'd have a problem. But yeah, he's definitely a good young player. He could take his spot and move Martinez somewhere else. Definitely a solution. So what we could see is Inacio used as a left-back, because he has played left centre-back in a back 3 quite a lot. Which could mean, could we see something which looks a little bit like this initially, right? So this is our back 4. So we've got Inacio, Lisandro Martinez, Rafael Varane, and Dalot. And then Lisandro Martinez is going to step into midfield in possession. And 2 wide players are going to tuck in a little bit, like what we saw from City next season. Is that possible? Would you exchange Rashford with Chiesa? I haven't seen much of Chiesa recently, I'll be honest with you. Funny that the Scalvini video is one of the first videos I've seen for you. Oh yeah, I did do a specific video on him as well, right? So you've been about for just over a year now. Great to hear that. Yeah, I think I did do a video solely on him, didn't I? Focusing on him. You'd say Flick or Alonso. Yeah, Alonso is definitely not a bad shout. Flick as well. The problem, Ali makes a really good point here. The problem with replacing Ten Hag is the new manager will need to replace Ten Hag's players. With our board, good luck with that. We still have players from all previous managers today. Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think it's going to be so difficult. I think, it's obvious, but United need to get rid of the owners. The owners have to change, because basically what happens is every time United change manager, it seems to be a complete contrast. If you look at Van Gaal compared to David Moyes, completely different. If you look at Mourinho compared to Van Gaal, very different. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer compared to Mourinho, very different. And now Ten Hag compared to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, very different. There's no club identity, and that's because there isn't the right owners, the sporting director, the technical directors, the recruitment team. It's so difficult for United to change manager. I just don't think it works. Because I just think it... Say if you talk about Brighton, they have an identity. So when Graham Potter comes out, they bring De Zerbi in. Now, they have different principles, but the idea of a certain vibe of football is at least similar. And they've got a brilliant recruitment team who sign a certain type of player. They've got brilliant technical directors, they're sporting directors. They're well run throughout the club. So when De Zerbi inevitably moves on, they'll bring another manager in who will have a similar idea of how the game should be played. So that's why the players they've already got will work with it, because they've got intelligent players. Whereas United, it's like a scattergun approach every time there's a new manager comes in. So I think if United got a new manager right now, I think he would struggle with the current team. If he want to play possession football, he'd struggle, because there's players at the moment who can't do that. So then he'd have to play pragmatic football or get smashed every week. If he plays pragmatic football, people won't be pleased with the football he's playing. So then he ends up leaving again. It's a weird one. So maybe... So Zakaria is saying, so to counter that, why not choose, if that was the case, a manager who has the same playstyle to create a new tradition and forge the playstyle slowly? Completely reasonable. But if you're going to do that, do you almost just give Ten Hag more time? Again, let me know what you guys think. Personally, I would keep Ten Hag, personally. I think it's way too early. The biggest problem is that we didn't go on a full rebuild in the last... Oh my Christ, that voice crack. In the last 10 years. Half a rebuild, half a players, half managers. Yeah, it's like a quarter rebuild every time. So the first video you actually watched of mine was the Malo Gusto scout report. I'm still sad that he never came to the club. I still dream about it. Ozil's also another good example of the ideal 10 for me. So yeah, hard as it is to say, we need to back Ten Hag and allow him time like Arsenal with Arteta. I completely agree. I think United need to keep the manager and just trust him. Hopefully get some better owners in and stuff. But, imagine Arsenal fans right now, or Arsenal as a football club, if they listened to the fans when they were all Arteta out. My brother's just messaged me, I think it's my brother, saying, nice voice crack in stream. It's not very nice, is it? Let me just tell him to do one. There we go. Do you think we should give Reguilon a contract? He seems solid. The problem is his injury concerns are definitely still there. He came in and played well for a few games and got injured. So if he could stay fit for the full season and play well every week, then maybe. But, if he's going to be injury prone, can he? Ali saying I would stick with Ten Hag. He will be good. I believe in him. We just need a good recruitment and board above him. This season, the injuries and overplaying from last season killed us. Completely agree. So are you guys largely Ten Hag? Keep Ten Hag, right? Change the manager but remain the players is like change the padding on a broken chair. Yeah, I quite like that analogy. If we put Sir Alex Ferguson the first couple of years in the current United, he would be hanged. Very true. Very true. Although it is obviously a different climate these days, but yeah. I would back Ten Hag if his decision made sense. How can you say you want to play transition football and play a guy like Anthony who slows attacks? Yeah, like I said, I don't think Ten Hag's got it perfectly right. He's not done as well as what I had hoped he would. And I've got questions over decisions he's made this season. I think you guys have seen me call him out on a fair few occasions. I've, said in several videos, I think the in-game management's been poor. I think the starting 11s haven't made sense, etc., etc. But I don't think there's a better option at the moment. And also, I don't think it's as bad as it looks. I say this quite a lot on the channel. It's kind of my go-to saying is, in football, it's never as good as you think it is, and it's also never as bad as you think it is. Everyone say De Zerbi, but remember Potter was insane, and when he moved to Chelsea, we all see what happens. Exactly. Brighton is such a good environment that it's hard to judge what they do there. It'd be nice if United were that sort of environment too. Just reading through some of these. Don't you think Ten Hag's messaging has changed from last season? He sounds way more defensive and almost unrealistically positive. I'm not sure really. I haven't looked into too many of his interviews, I'll be honest with you. Apart from when he's certain things, obviously from a tactical point of view, he said. Ali, not only does he bring the wonderful donations, but he also brings incredible knowledge and wisdom. What a quote. The problem with United, we are trying to heal a cat scratch whilst ignoring a lion bite that is bleeding. I couldn't agree more. The lion bite is the Glazers. Ten Hag's not the problem here. It's easy to blame Ten Hag, obviously, because we see what his work on the pitch almost. But it goes so much higher than that. I completely agree, Ali. For me personally, I feel like Ten Hag is massively caught between two ideas. He wants to play this nice football. We know he does. We saw it at Ajax. We know that has to be his idea of football because he's done it for so many years there. Then we see what he's doing at United, where he's gone, maybe this team can't play good football, so we need to be a bit more pragmatic and a bit more transitional. And now this season, he's trying to edge his way back to more the possession football, and he's just getting caught in between. And I think it is a difficult situation for him at the moment. I think it is quite a hard place to be in because this United squad, for years now, has been built half and half. I would say if you go through the starting 11, someone like Bruno Fernandes is more suited to transitional football. Someone like Marcus Rashford is more suited to transitional football. Mason Mount is maybe more suited to transitional football. You could borderline make the argument about Rasmus Højlund as well, maybe. Whereas Onana, Lisandro Martinez, Amrabat, Anthony are way more suited to slower positional play and possessional play. So the squad is in between, which means the football's probably always going to be in between. Which is, where United have got a problem. Where was this protection for proven managers like Louis van Gaal and Jose? It doesn't make sense to me. I didn't do videos then, to be honest. Trying to think what my opinion was then. See, I was more supportive of Van Gaal than I was Jose Mourinho. With Jose Mourinho, that was probably more of a loss of cool head sort of thing. Just anger that the club had been bad for so long. Feels like by now we've accepted we're bad almost, which is probably a bad thing in itself. So, yeah, it's a fair point. How highly do you still rate Ten Hag? Potentially in the league of Pep and Klopp? Yeah, he's not there yet, and obviously Arteta is now in that top bracket as well. He's not there yet. But I think he could be. I do still think he could be. Recruitment from that perspective makes sense. Amrabat showed he could wrangle relatively disorganised players and be influential on the tempo of the game. I do think I still believe this completely. Before we judge Ten Hag, let him use his team for a few games. Give him and by the way, a few games in football. I'm talking 8-9 games of his team. Now, what is his team? It's not Lindelof and Maguire at centre-back. It is, if I can find him, where is he? Oh, he's in midfield. Lisandro Martinez. His left-back of choice is Luke Shaw. Right-back, I'm not too sure who he likes. He's signed Amrabat in midfield. He signed Anthony on the right wing. He signed Rasmus Højlund. He signed Mason Mount. We haven't seen this starting 11 yet, right? We haven't seen this starting 11 once. And this is Ten Hag's signed starting 11. This is what Ten Hag is trying to build alongside his coaches and his recruitment team. We haven't seen it play once. We haven't seen it play 10 seconds of football yet. It's got to be too early to judge him, right? Because suddenly, if you look at this team, there is more ball-playing ability. Because Luke Shaw's press-resistant and really good at progressing the play. The same for Lisandro Martinez. Sofiane Amrabat is really good at dictating play. Mason Mount is an intelligent footballer. Anthony's good at holding. So maybe then we see more. Who knows? I implore everyone to look at the progress, but not the results from 1 or 2 matches. Winner Jose played against Liverpool at Old Trafford, aiming at 0-0, yet still lost 3-0. He did say, did he? He did say that, didn't he? He won the game. Mourinho was like, I'm aiming for a 0-0 draw. That's probably where he lost faith. People forget that Ten Hag won a trophy last season. Yeah, I'm not saying that anyone is right or wrong, and I don't think that it's ever that clear either way in football. You know, I think Corey has some completely relevant points where Ten Hag is... My voice is going massively. Give me 1 second, boys. It's because I've been ill recently. Talking is a difficulty. Yeah, Corey made some points which are absolutely spot on, and the people who have questions over Ten Hag rightfully have those questions. He isn't getting it spot on. The tactics are questionable. He's making weird decisions at times in certain games. You know, someone like Anthony did come in for too much money and seems to get given a free pass at times. So he's definitely doing things wrong. But I think we've got to give him a bit of time to see just his starting 11. Mourinho, we got to see his team at least. The team that he had built, we got to see it. Like Matic and Pogba, for example, Zlatan. We saw them play. Van Gaal, we saw his team play together. Didn't work, so it's fair to judge him. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, we saw his signings play together. Certain things worked really well, certain things didn't, so it's fairer to judge. With Ten Hag, we haven't seen it yet. So Corey's saying I'll give him those 8 to 9 games. The problem is, with that, the players aren't back yet. Lissandro Martinez is out for a few months. Luke Shaw's out for a few months. We aren't going to see good football with the players which are currently available. And that goes back to years of mismanagement of a football club. United should have players which should be able to fill into these gaps. But at the same time, the injury crisis is unheard of. So it's all a bit of a mess. It's all a bit of a mess. What would an ideal January transfer window look like for United? The problem is, United are never going to do much business in January just because we know that the club don't do it. It's Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has said it, that he wasn't really allowed to do that. So it's really difficult to say. I think, like someone said in chat there, I don't think this team is miles away from being good. I think it's quite a distance away from being Manchester City and Arsenal level of good. But I don't think it's a mile away from putting together a run of 20 results, for example. Look at United's home form last season. It was incredible. The wins we went on was absolutely incredible. So I don't think this team is as far away as it seems. I think the squad is just decimated by injuries. You've got individuals performing poorly. Bruno Fernandes is below standard at the moment. You've got Casemiro way below standard and Onana below standard. Lindelof as well, performing poorly. So you've got a mixture of, so far this season, I think it's 14 different injuries in the squad so far. Combined with, also Rashford, by the way, his standard has slipped. So combined with 6 players which aren't performing that well individually, which sometimes is down to a manager, but it's also down to individuals as well. We all have bad spells of doing things, no matter what line of work you're in. So it's always going to be difficult for Ten Hag to play great football when he's got that many players missing, that many players just struggling to click at the moment, which again isn't always the manager's fault. So, you know, all it could take though is a few players to return, and suddenly, we've all seen it before. Someone like a striker, for example, can be really bad form. They score 2 goals in a game, and then they score 10 in the next 12, and they look fantastic. It could be a small click for United. United could get 5 players back from injury. Rashford starts performing, Casemiro starts performing, Fernandes picks it up a bit, Ten Hag makes 1 or 2 tactical tweaks, and it suddenly could be really good. So it's not as bad as it looks. I do still think that. Last season, with a fully united squad, Old Trafford was a fortress. Now with a separated United, Old Trafford is a toilet seat. Yeah, I think it's fair to say. Separated in terms of unity, but also players available. AJ, I know it sounds like a joke now, but our transitional football could win us the Champions League. We just need to get it together. Yeah, our football is suited to knockout football. The problem is, we've got to get through the group first. In all honesty, last season there were quite a number of matches we got bailed out big time, unfortunate period where Rashford being Ballon d'Or Rashford. Yeah, Rashford and Bruno Fernandes overperformed last season, which definitely helped. More Kobe Mainoo, Garnacho and youngsters, and less Varane Casemiro type. Yes, reasonable. Ali said it there again, by the way. Arteta was 8th for 2 seasons and finished 5th in his 3rd season. Arsenal fans had t-shirts printed Arteta out. Now look at him. Give Ten Hag time. I think it's a good point. Ten Hag, was the football good last season? No, it was pragmatic. But he came in, he got top 4, he got a trophy, he went deep in every single competition, FA Cup final, Europa League, was it semis or quarters? In his first season. Arteta finished 8th for 2 seasons, then 5th. He's only just now got Champions League football for the first time. It's not easy just to come in and click. Codename said club football is like a work environment. Some people thrive under a well-organised small company, but when switched to a chaotic big company with multi-level of management, they would struggle massively. Yeah, they're humans at the end of the day, right? Whether it's footballers, whether it's managers, technical directors, physios, canteen people, they're all human. DJ Nature said, AJ, hope you're doing well, mate. I'm not bad at all, thank you. Hope you're well as well. Good to see you. Tottenham, Liverpool have 6 injuries. Chelsea have 9, including players like Nkunku. And Virgil van Dijk has fallen off a cliff, so why does Ten Hag have so much protection? Yeah, but I think Klopp got that protection last season, right? Who are Tottenham's injuries, out of interest? Hopefully United can turn it around after the international break. Yeah, that's the spirit I want to hear. I mean, the point about Chelsea having 9 injuries like Nkunku, and so why does Ten Hag get so much protection compared to Chelsea, for example? I think Pochettino gets way more protection than Ten Hag, but rightfully so, he's in a new job. As for Tottenham and Liverpool, trying to think what the Liverpool injuries are. Who's out for Liverpool at the moment? I can't think. Who's out for Spurs as well? Again, I'm not saying you're wrong, I'm just genuinely wondering. Why does Ten Hag have so much protection? I think in football you get credit in the bank, right? If you win a cup, the first cup in however many years, like, I think that buys you a bit of credit in the bank. I think that is a loyalty to a manager and a person. Chelsea has 200 players in their squad. Liverpool had winning culture since Klopp came in. Klopp's another one who didn't hit the ground running straight away. He needed his big signings. I think let's move on from the Ten Hag discussion. I think it's easy. I think he's doing certain things right. I think he's doing certain things wrong. I think his squad is decimated with injuries and probably confidence at the moment as well. If players can get back from injury and Ten Hag makes a few tactical tweaks, players pick up their form, I think we'll be all right. Just get the Glazers out. That's who we should be against. Let's look at a more positive side. All right, guys, let's cheer up a little bit. Mainoo is apparently getting closer. So what are our thoughts on this? Now, I'm not going to go fully in depth here because I need to leave shortly in about 20 minutes. And I want to do a proper video on this as well. I've been researching his football in the youth teams as well. But this is something we can all get excited about, right? I think it's important we don't go overboard. He's very young. I think it would be wrong to put too much pressure on him and expect him to fix things because, you know, the environment is bad. So I think it's wrong to expect great things from him straight away. But I think he's a positive, right? Yeah, he does have a big pressure on his shoulders. I think what's going to be important when he comes in is obviously he's really talented. We can all see that. And his profile is really nice for what Ten Hag likes in a midfielder. It's something which I know you guys like as well. But it's important that he doesn't, he's not back from injury, bam, get in the first team, go play the next 20 games. I get the idea of if you're good enough, you're old enough. I understand that sentiment and that philosophy and that idea. But you've also got to be realistic. Some youngsters will be fine with being chucked straight in. Some will need nurturing. Some will need to play youth football still. Some will need a loan to other leagues. Hopefully, between the youth team staff and the first team staff, they know Mainoo enough as a player to make sure that we get that transition. So it needs to be a smooth transition from youth football to senior football. Have United always done that well? No, not really. Not in the past few seasons. So I think we need to see him managed properly. In terms of what he's going to bring as a player, he can really be very good. He's got excellent press resistance in the first phase. He's got really good ability to use his body, kind of drop a shoulder and get on a half turn. He's good in that area. He's got an excellent understanding of tempo. He's got natural pauser to his game. He knows how to kind of speed things up, then slow it down a little bit. So he's really good in that department. He's a good passer in general. Can carry the ball forward through the pitch. In terms of his best position, I'm not sure we know it just yet. He can play as a 6 or an 8. Typically more as an 8 for the youth team, although people seem to think he might be a 6. Just aware of stream lagging slightly. So I'm just going to stop for 1 second. But yeah, I think he's a really good profile. I'm just reading through chat. You guys are still talking about Ten Hag. I think the argument, by the way, I will just say this. I think the argument that Ten Hag spent a lot of money is a weird one, because they'll say Ten Hag spent a lot of money, Arteta didn't, or Klopp didn't. The managers don't spend the money. It's to do with how good your negotiation team is. If United can't negotiate a price down, that's not Ten Hag's fault. He doesn't rock up at the door and go, "Hello, Ajax, I want Anthony, please." You know, it's the negotiation. There's a recruitment team for that. So I think it's wrong to blame price tag on Ten Hag. I don't think he's anything to do with price tag. The club will decide amongst themselves, this is the player we want. We're happy to go as high as this. I don't think Ten Hag has a say in that. And also, he's in a worse environment than Liverpool. Liverpool recruitment, incredible. The board spent the money, spot on. Anyway, just lastly, there are better managers than Ten Hag for the job, in my opinion. Completely fair opinion. Completely fair. Yeah, there might be. But we thought, say, for example, we thought Jose Mourinho was going to be a solution. He weren't. So you might be right. You might be wrong. I might be right. I might be wrong. Everyone else might be right. They might be wrong. I think Ten Hag's not going to get sacked. I don't think he's close to being sacked. And in my opinion, rightfully so. If you disagree, fair enough. I don't think he will be. I think we need to look at what he can kind of do moving forward. Let me know content-wise what you want me to do in terms of content. What can we talk about with Manchester United in the future? Do you want to see tactics they need to use? I do want to do a bit of coverage on the best midfield solution, because obviously there's a slight balance issue in there. So we need to talk about that. Do we have any prospect centre-backs or full-backs from our academy? I'm looking into the academy at the moment, trying to find some talent. Shea Lacey is the big one. Got a video coming on him soon. Hopefully once we've hit 20k, I've got the new camera, maybe sorted a green screen background. Hopefully then we might do the Shea Lacey video. But at the moment I'm doing my research. He's the one for me which is exciting. But of course he's a more technical forward. In terms of centre-backs, full-backs, none of them have jumped out at me so far, I'll be honest with you. But I'll keep watching. I will keep watching and we'll try to find the talent. But yeah, apart from that, I'm not too sure. Has anyone else got anything else you want to talk about in chat before we wrap up this stream? Apart from Ten Hag and his future as manager. Because it's interesting to get the points, but I think what was I going to say? Yeah, Ten Hag's not going to get sacked, so it's not worth talking about. So is there anything else you want to talk about? Apart from that, we'll move on. Just quickly though, Ali, thank you very much for the donation, saying, got to go AJ, what a show, really enjoyed it. You all have a great Friday, an amazing weekend. God bless you all, my friends. Thank you very much, guys. If you guys could spam some love hearts. Thank you, Ali. I really do appreciate that. Get love hearts in the chat. Say thank you to Ali, because his donations are brilliant. They're paying for you guys to have a new camera, so you get to see this beautiful face in better quality. Who doesn't want that? Thank you very much, Ali. Enjoy your day, mate. Have a good day at work, and enjoy your weekend as well. Play a low block until we get a good defence to press fully. Yeah, I think certainly. Maybe not a low block, but I think a mid block could be an idea. Shout out Ali. Absolutely. He's a legend for the channel. Like I said, he's like single-handedly paying for a new camera. Shout out to everyone who donates as well. Corey, thank you very much for the donation earlier. I do greatly appreciate that as well. Sometimes I struggle with words, but I do appreciate the donation as always. I think for the stream we are going to wrap up there, because I do need to be leaving because I've got to go something I've got to go do. So I think we are going to wrap up there unless anyone has anything in particular they want to talk about. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, make sure you do subscribe before you leave. Also leave a like on the live stream, but subscribe to the channel. I'm trying to hit 20k. Like I said, when we get 20k, you're going to get membership on the channel. You're going to get new camera, so more quality. You're going to get a new background, probably with a green screen. so we can have more fun with edits as well, which should be good to bring better quality content. Channel memberships, meaning that you guys who become members will get a loyalty badge next to your name, and over time the badge will develop and improve depending how long you've been a member, which is really cool. And also custom emojis. If you guys let me know at some point what custom emojis you would like. Do you want to be able to put, Rashford doing this in the chat? Do you want to put Ten Hag in the chat? Let me know what you'd like. Maybe you want an AJ analysis cap. Let me know what you want. But apart from that, thank you to everyone who has joined stream. Thank you to those of you which have sat there quietly. Thank you to those who have got your opinions in. I do greatly appreciate it. I think we've had a good engaging chat today. We haven't had as many people as we normally do, but there's been a lot of chat going on, which has been really good to see. So I really appreciate that from you guys. And what I appreciate more than anything is that none of you have got hatey towards each other, because I've seen people disagreeing, but you've still been polite about it. So I do greatly appreciate that. It's the way we should talk about football, and we need to see it more, especially on the internet. So thank you guys for that. Thank you to Corey and Ali for the donations. Thank you to everyone who got involved, basically. Yeah, thank you guys for watching. Hope you've enjoyed it. As always, I'll see you in the next one.